Getting stuck while writing songs sucks, but I found 3 simple things that will keep you from getting stuck ever again. Truly. The thing is, as songwriters, we're taking on the monumental task of making something out of nothing. But not only that, we have to create that something in a way that clearly expresses and communicates a feeling to our listeners. And in order to engage with that process effectively, it's vital that we're able to communicate our ideas uninhibited. Now, even though not getting stuck is easy, once you know the 3 tools that I'm about to show you, finding these tools has not been easy. I've spent the last 15 years writing and getting stuck, being in awkward sessions where ideas aren't flowing and nothing is happening creatively, even giving up songs entirely. The tools I'm about to give you come from a deep investment that I have in songwriting as a craft and the way our brains work during that creative process. Contrast is the first concept you need to understand when it comes to not only writing more effective songs, but also unstucking yourself when you inevitably hit a block trying to write those songs. Contrast is one of the most powerful tools in all of your musical arsenal, and if you want a more deep dive into all of the musical possibilities that contrast offers, you can check out this video here. But for our purposes here, I'm going to talk about contrast as it pertains to songwriting. When songwriting, we have 3 main areas of contrast to play with: lyrics, melody, and rhythm. One of the best ways to unstuck yourself when songwriting is to use one or all 3 of those things to shake things up. Here's what that looks like in practice. In this song by Jackie Joshua, Jackie uses contrast to differentiate the verse from the chorus by changing up her lyrics, melody, and rhythm. She changes the lyrics from talking about specifics to talking about more broad feelings. She shifts the melody from being in a lower tone of her voice to a higher, airier tone. And then she shifts the rhythm from being a little bit more bouncy to being a mixture of more long, sustained notes.
Stay. Walk along this tightrope, tell me if you wanna play. Midnight hour, crystal shot, sipping till we're free. You just magic, I'm an addict. Let's spark something I feel like. Just to be with you all day and night. Save a bit for me, I feel like. Just to be with you if you
Now, the reason this works to get your writing moving again is because often while writing, we work ourselves into boxes. When mulling over a verse or chorus for 30 minutes, you start to hyperfixate on only those options you've been playing with. Our brains love to pick out patterns, so we start to pick out and fixate on those patterns. By taking a look at what we've been doing and thinking of opposite directions to push it in, we unlock sleeping inspiration and we spark new ideas. But here's the thing, no matter how good your contrast is, it's only part of the puzzle to great songwriting. Every great song that makes you really feel something is coming from a specific perspective, and understanding what perspective you're coming from is vital to not feeling stuck in the songwriting process. As you're writing, try to define the narrative as soon as possible. Who are the characters? What's the setting? Where's the story taking place? The reason this is important is because when you're writing and get stuck, you can look at your narrative from a bird's eye view and see where there are opportunities to expand upon or elaborate on your perspective. Joni Mitchell is incredible at this, so instead of me trying to come up with an example, I'm gonna let her teach you. Take her absolute masterpiece of a song and one of my personal favorites, Both Sides Now, and let's see if we can define where she's diving into different perspectives to flesh out her narrative. So she starts out with rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. Here we see Joni having an ambiguous thought process. Her perspective is floaty and her concepts are abstract. You could say her thoughts are very childlike. We're past tense, and she lets us know that by saying she's looked at clouds that way. It's how she used to feel. She then grounds us in a more mature adult perspective by saying, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. We go from naive dreaming to practical living. Clouds aren't ice cream castles. They rain and snow on days when you'd like to be outside. They're bad weather causing travel delays and rescheduled plans. She lands us into the chorus with another perspective shift, saying, I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. She's giving us a sense of maturity without being jaded. She's growing in life, learning about herself and her surroundings. When you're writing and you get stuck, ask yourself, what perspective have I been feeling coming from? Am I internal, talking about what's going on inside my head? Well, let me go external and talk about how that's being perceived. Am I vague and floaty? Let's ground down and talk about the specific effects that's having on the situation. This change in perspective and clarity on where you've already been will help you understand where you should go next. So contrast and perspective are massive helps to not getting stuck. But songwriting is nothing if you're not communicating a feeling. But that's also where we can get massively stuck. Feelings are really hard to put into words, never mind trying to combine that with melody and rhythm, all of which have the ability to really break the feeling we're trying to communicate in the first place if we're not careful. So let's break it down this way to help. If I'm describing a brutal breakup that I went through, I'm going to use words that make me feel that way. I'm not just going to say the way that you broke my heart. It's plain, it's basic, and in this case isn't communicating the gravity of what I want to express. So instead, I'm going to restructure it and add highlight words that convey the feeling that I'm trying to express. Getting your heart broken is painful, and for me, when I've experienced that feeling at its worst, it feels violent, like shredding, taking a whole and clawing it into pieces. Also, in this case, the word heart doesn't feel deep enough. I want to communicate the deep existence that I'm in, the most intimate part of me that I can imagine. So let's try soul instead. Altogether, we go from the way you broke my heart to the way you shred every inch of my soul. I'm using violent imagery to convey the feeling that I want to communicate to the listener. I want them to feel what I am feeling. Now, maybe that's too dramatic for your taste, and that's okay. I tend to err on the side of a little more poetic and vague in songwriting myself. This can be used in a less literal, less dramatic sense as well. Let me show you what I mean. For instance, if I want to describe to you the feeling that I feel sitting in the grass in the shade on a warm summer day, I might use words that describe that feeling without being literal and specific of what I'm actually talking about. I might say something like, wind goes by and it's touched by the sun, grass under my hands, I can never get enough. Often this feeling piece of songwriting comes down to how literal or poetic we might be. One tool I like to use when I'm trying to put a feeling into lyric form is to write out the literal sentence of what I'm feeling, like I love sitting in the shade in the grass on a warm summer day. And in most cases, that probably won't be lyrical enough. But if I use that as a jumping off point and then decide how I might translate that into lyrical melodic form, I'm so much further than I am if I'm just sitting there staring at a blank page. So next time you're writing and you start to feel that block happen, remember these 3 tools. Contrast is powerful. Use it as a tool to help you decide where to switch up your lyrics, your melody, and your rhythm. Perspective. It's not just your audience who needs to know your perspective. You need to define your narrative early and look for where you can change it up or elaborate on the perspective you're coming from. And last, feelings. The feelings you want to convey need to be felt, not heard. If a lyric doesn't make you feel something, dive deeper. If something is feeling too dramatic and poetic, go specific, be literal. Using the tools of contrast, perspective, and feeling works. And it works because it keeps you moving. Writer's block happens when you're not moving anywhere. As long as you're moving forward. The only way you can truly get stuck is by not knowing where to move next. If you're alternating looking at these 3 concepts during your entire writing process, you always have something new to analyze and you always have new inspiration to spark. There's one last thing I'll add to this for those of you guys who have stuck around this long. There are some times when writing where you need to move forward by taking some space. Ironically, that will be what gives you clarity and perspective. But what I find most helpful about taking space is actively setting an intention while taking that space. When I'm writing and I feel stuck, even with these 3 tools in mind, I take a walk, I listen to music, or I put on a music documentary. I'm not just ejecting, I'm jumping into other things that fuel me. And in those things, I'm asking, where's the missing piece to my puzzle? It's active rest. It's knowing when to stop for gas. It's not stuck, it's sitting and observing, and it's a game changer. Anyways, I hope this is as helpful to you as it is to me. I hope that this completely changes your writing process like it has mine. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful. And remember, keep working to understand the music that you're making, because when we understand the music we make better music. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.